All right, so we're live here with Elias. It is Wednesday, May 15th, and
That it is.
I wanted to start this off with Elias. I just actually reminded him earlier of the first time I met you.
Yes.
I said, Elias, do you remember the first time that I met you? And he didn't have a clue. He had to think about that for a second.
Well, it's been many years now, first and foremost. But when you did remind me, I instantly remembered something else. But I'll let you remind everyone.
A friend of mine, so we went to the show, and a friend of mine's like, hey, I'm buddies with this UFC fighter. That's right.
Randy, my good friend as well.
Yeah, and said, I'm good friends with this fighter. I think you had just won Ultimate Fighter.
So it was about 5 years ago.
And I saw a picture, and I'm like, really? I said, this guy's a fighter? He's too pretty. Like, no way. And you're like, he won? I'm like, this guy's badass. He's like, yeah,
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, exactly. And I met you there. It was actually at the sex show. It was the Toronto sex
everything
show.
About sex.
And you were there. What were you doing there?
I was on the cover of him, Handsome International Men. I think it would have been 2014 cover. I was only wearing hand wraps where I covered everything, the package, if you will. But I was on the cover of it, and what's it called? It's actually a really cool show. They still do different him events all around, where it's like a male burlesque show, and it's really awesome. But I graced the cover, and I was there signing. I was signing babies and shaking hands.
Yeah, you're definitely a worker. That's one thing I could say about you.
There were no babies at the sex show. just to throw that out there. There were no babies at the sex show.
But yeah, that was one thing I noticed about you, because, like, listen, I mean, people do tend to judge a book by its cover, right? I'm sure this has happened in your life probably a lot.
Well, yes, but that may or may not have to do with the fact that I've been on 10 romance novels.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Mr. Robe. That's
but
exactly.
Just kidding.
Fabio.
Just throwing a curveball in the conversation. No, yes.
You could be. No, so I mean, listen, I've worked with a lot of different tough guys, fighters, boxers, you name it. And it does kind of surprise me. Some of the guys are so not what you think they would be. I mean, like the first time I met Rory McDonald up at Jonathan Chambers' gym, I said to him, I go, who's going to be the next GSP? It was that kid over there. And I said, really? You know, and I had no idea, as far as, because he was really like very gentle, very like almost shy looking, you know, like almost like he'd be the guy that would be picked on. And I thought, but then obviously watching him get in the octagon, I was blown away. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing I think when I first met you, and I, you know, we're going to get into this podcast, because the one thing that I like is the mindset. I mean, not necessarily the training and all that. Obviously, you've been around it. We've covered it. I know you're up at TriStar. You're with Faraz. You train here with, who do you train with here?
I also train at Grant's Rivals. Someone like RG and Almaz, and at the gym for quite some time now there too. I also train at the UFC gym over there with. Oh, I should be looking.
Trying to get three things.
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make eye contact
and make sure you're talking about
and people contact, because there's technical people in this room. But no, I train in Montreal and Toronto, as I mentioned. Also at Grant's Rival Gym. But
so yeah, the training part of it, I've seen, we can talk about that after, as it's very intense. I mean, the conditioning, the stuff
especially,
that I've seen.
It's turning it up with fight camps where obviously more specific to an opponent.
Well, it's not like those days of, like, Tank Abbott, where it's like a big fat guy getting there.
That's many years past.
Right?
Yeah, it's a sport, right? It's a mixing of different sports. So what it basically is obviously there's the physical, there's the mental, and there's game day, and making sure you peak on the right time. But
slide over a little more.
Sliding over,
so
reaching over.
Now, okay, one of the first questions I have is, okay, the mindset. I mean, most guys maybe have been into a fight here or there, and
hello everyone. I'm seeing a couple of things popping up where people are saying hello.
Well, if people have questions, we'll answer them as we go. We'll keep your eyes open there. But so the first thing I want to say is the mindset you have when the walk-in. I mean, I've been privileged enough to have been behind the scenes at, it was a Shane Carwin fight. I was with Chamberlain.
Nice.
I took pictures, and for me it was like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was so intense, and I was more scared as a guy sitting in the back going, if I say something, is this gonna piss this guy off? Is he gonna be like fucking like knock my head off? But guys are all pretty cool and calm back there. But what's going through your head when you're backstage before you like do the walkout and all this stuff? What's getting you psyched up, motivated?
Well, I think at that point it's just the fact that it's real. Obviously, you plan for a fight, you get ready for a fight. There's weeks, if not months, between fights, and you're always focused, obviously, on the task at hand, which is your opponent. I think the most, I don't know, clarifying moment is kind of like when especially now in the UFC, they kind of know because of the timing, the commercials, the expected time for the pay per view, et cetera, kind of going through. So they have to almost like a science.
Yeah.
Like you're out in 15 minutes at 8:05. You're going to be fighting at 11 p.m. You're going to be fighting.
Who'd you work with in Ottawa last? Who was the guy that brings you in?
It would have been Brock. It would have been there's a whole bunch of guys.
Some of these guys.
Yeah, what's it called? There's a whole team behind
those guys are really, really. You have to be on point. You got a production. You've got tons of people watching it.
Yeah,
you've got fighters who are like their minds are really going, whatever the fuck's going through your mind, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to make sure everything's on point. So I mean, yeah, any of those guys, I've seen them, and it's a skill. It's certainly a skill.
Oh, so. Again, part of it's mental, part of it's physical, and it's timing them all up.
Do you have any fear when you get in? Like, are you scared? Okay, like, I got to get like, look at Anderson Silva. I mean, you have that fear when you before you get into the octagon?
I haven't really had much fear in some capacity. Like, obviously, there's the fear of failure. I think that's what it more is, in obviously presenting yourself out in a way where you're basically taking what you've been working on for months on end, and you're making it all come together on the one specific day, game day. Yeah. And unlike other sports, professional sports, let's say like basketball or baseball, for instance, they have 160 games where there's basically 3 to 5 days a year where you can kind of perform and what's it called at your best. And so it's an interesting thing to kind of bring it all together, adding the timing in regards to when you're scheduled to fight, the also extra aspect that there's people watching in the stands, and also the fact that you extrapolate that out, people watching outwards. So it's very interesting to take it all in. There's not really fear. It's the acceptance of the fact that failure can happen, and that's what makes victory so sweet when you do actually succeed. And I've been lucky to succeed well more amount of times than I have failed. But failure has come, and obviously my last fight didn't go my way, but there was 15 minutes to learn from.
Let's talk about that, because I mean, I've obviously covered UFC. I've been into. I know the guy that you were up against was like a knockout guy. He's got pretty heavy hands. He's a pretty badass individual, and
he was eighth in the world for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened? I mean, what?
Well, I think it was just one of those things where what just wasn't my night. I think I've been very successful in the past. Leading up to this fight, I went 3 fights in a row, kind of focusing on my unorthodox style and being able to confuse my opponent into and outwork them. Especially when I was playing the Matador to a bull. And normally with Derek Brunson, he comes out, especially in the first round, because he has the top knockout rate in the first round in my division. I think he has like in those last 10 fights, he's either been knocked out or knocked out every single person, and every single person in that first round. So again, it's one of those things where he normally comes out like a bull. He didn't quite do that, and I didn't make the adjustments. So but going back to my unorthodox style, when it didn't work in regards to the aggression coming that I expected, I think I overcommitted in certain directions. But again, I was able to get out of every horrible.
There was a couple spots
right off the bat, right?
I thought,
because normally he comes out guns a-blazing, and I visualized the fight for so long that he would just come out rushing. But when he didn't, it turned into a wrestling fight. It took me a second to snap in. Obviously, I lost the first, but the 2 judges gave me the second. Yeah. And I think it was really just the slam at the end that again, going back to the mental component, there's a threshold of like 50-50 that we have to kind of cross to basically impose our will. In order to cross the line and you take it, I think I kind of accepted a takedown a little bit too much, and that big slam is what kind of cost me in the third. So
yeah, that was bad timing with that. I mean, dude, you're lucky that one could have really been unfortunate.
And again, I toughed through it, and on my worst day, I lose a close fight to the 8th best guy in the world. You know, I went on a 3-fight winning streak, and after my last loss, and I'm looking for the next 3-fight winning streak, or beyond after.
What's next? When's the next fight?
Nothing set. UFC Edmonton was just announced, obviously with Max Holloway taking on Frankie Edgar, which is a great fight. I'm really excited to watch that as a fan, and would love to fight there.
Yeah. Can you see him? Because I can't.
Yeah.
I can't read
Champions do need a failure every once in a while to obviously rebuild.
How many losses have you had?
I've only had 3 losses. One of those was to Thiago Santos, who's fighting John Jones. Yeah. I'm one of the only men to go to a decision with him, where everyone's basically
you were unbeaten for what?
Stratosphere.
Yeah. You were unbeaten up till what? 16, 17, and what?
How? 13-0.
13-0.
I went 13 wins plus the 2 fights in the Ultimate Fighter, so technically 15 fights undefeated. And then lost to someone like Thiago again in the 3rd round, where something made the decision, and was able to build and get a win streak again. I lost, and I had even longer win streaks. So I again on the first bad day since 2017, when was the last time I lost. I'm looking forward to basically learn and regroup.
Yeah, I know it's I've got a good story about you, because I was actually in Vegas for that last.
Elbows. More elbows. I agree. More elbows are needed.
Yeah, no, exactly. Is there any more?
So one predictions on Santos versus John Jones. Obviously, Santos is someone that I fought. Obviously John Jones is the best in the world, probably the best to ever do it. Yeah. But I would love to see Santos shock the world. Especially if he was able to finish John Jones and my big ass head didn't get knocked out. Yeah. It would just put everything in perspective. And again, it's the battles that I have had for someone like Santos, or like Sam Alvey, or like Cesar Ferreira, those great fighters that I've been able to either win off of, or, have or learn off of, right? It's either you win or you learn, especially if you don't get knocked out.
Exactly, right. Win or learn. So I was going to say, I was actually in Vegas, if you remember. Well, it was when you lost. It was UFC. Which one was it?
It was Paige Van Zandt versus Rose. Yeah,
because there was 2. I was there. Was a UFC fight weekend. I went both nights and all that, and I wanted to go see you. And I remember I was with an ex of mine, and it was so hard to watch you because
a lot of blood.
Yeah, as a friend, you're like, oh my God, like it's different than watching some other guys you meet and all that. And that fight you did not win. And I remember because I was coming down the escalator at T-Mobile, and you had a blue suit on.
Yes.
The Greek colors there. And you were, so it's all like escalators. I don't know who's been there. You could see down. And I go, all I see is you by yourself, shaking hands, taking photos with all the fans as they're basically leaving the stadium.
For sure.
Now, if anyone's been to a UFC fight or seen this stuff, if you've lost a fight, there's guys who've actually run out of the octagon. People don't want to talk to anyone, don't want to be anywhere around anyone. And then there you are. And I'm like, holy shit, like this guy is actually, even if you won, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's still like, but that's one thing, you interact with the fans. You certainly are so, it's not fake. It's not bullshit. That's one thing I could tell people. It's like, we've done work together in the magazine and all that, but we're friends outside of that.
Yes, we are.
And it's, it's like integrity. And I see how you are. And that's why I think you're becoming so popular. You're very popular now. But I think the sky's the limit, even outside of the octagon, because of the way you are with people. And that to me was something like, I've worked with a lot of professional athletes, and it's not something they typically do. So my hat's off to you. And I mean, like, is there a part of you, like, is it therapy for you to some extent too? Like, you want to get out there and talk to people? Like, I've had some friends of mine who, like, how do you look at that? Like, are you just being nice to people here, or are you actually, I mean, obviously like it, right? Like, this is something.
Well, I'm doing me first and foremost. Yeah. And also I'm a MMA fan as well, right? So the fact that the idea, the concept of having fans myself, still blows my mind.
What was the
So, and again, they're also fans of the sport, whether they were fans of me beforehand or just like I mentioned, a fan of the sport. There was a sporting event that they
paid to
really
go
paid to
see
go
and see? Yeah,
see
you're
and what's
entertaining
it called,
people.
enjoyed, and it's a moment that we shared, both me being in there and also the fact that I was a part of it and they were a part of it, right?
Yeah,
So,
but you're going above and beyond. I mean, that's one of the things. Like I said, you're paid to do certain things. You have to do pressers. You have to do the post-fight, press conferences. There's shit that you have to do. That you got to do it. But there's guys who don't even do that part. For whatever reason. I get it's a very mental. I was there for Diaz. I've seen Diaz.
But that
they told the press when Diaz got off the microphone after the post-fight, don't talk to him. Like, don't even look at him really, because he could just snap. And I get it. And I'm like, well, he's a loose wire. I'm saying but you're a little bit different.
Everyone's different, right? But again, just kind of answering some of the questions that you kind of mentioned and also what people asked, whether it's kind of therapy, doing stuff like in different directions, like I will be at BTC June 1st in Burlington. It's the next BTC event, a BCT fight, which is a great fight. It's so BTC is a gym, Burlington Training Center,
okay.
But they also have a fight league, Burlington Fights, and I will be the ring boy. So obviously, many people know what a ring card holder is in the UFC. I am a male ring card holder, so I do that for
like
Invicta
the first
fight.
Were you like the first guy?
Yeah, and especially UFC fighter. I'm the first UFC fighter to do it.
A real pro athlete.
And I also own the trademark for Ring Boy, so I have a calendar for 2020 Ring Boy. Calendars coming out eventually, but I have a Weed Bay calendar as well. Because I own the trademark of Weed Boy.
That's
Bay
right,
as well. So
there's so many things that we're going to get into because there's a business side of it. I wanted to ask you one question. Have you ever had like a weird fan experience?
Oh, definitely a few. Probably one of the weirdest ones was in Vegas. I was walking with a bunch of my friends, and a mother with her children were walking, and she kind of like walked in front of me. They stopped. We just stared at each other, and she just kept on staring at me. Didn't say anything, just stared at me for about like 30 seconds, or it felt like even like minutes.
Yeah.
But she stares at me with her kids are like kind of like, Mom, what are we doing? And then she just kicks back too, and she goes, thank you for letting me look at you, and just walks away with her mom. The kids were like 12. They're like, Mom, what the hell is that?
What's going on?
And the two other people I was with, friends and training partners and coaches, they're just like, what the fuck was that?
She said straight up, thank you for letting me look at you.
That was I don't even know if she was a fan. She just did that. Wow. So that was weird.
Was she a fan, or she just
I don't know.
She may have no idea. I mean, I can see this being at like the MGM pool, and you just got out of the water. And she's like, but where were you?
But where were you? Heading. It was at the MGM. It was at the MGM.
Right,
but
that's a weird thing.
A question that I saw pop up. What do I think? I can kind of work on, improve on. I think I need to work on it a certain part of a certain point of aggression. I think for the last little bit, I've been successful at playing with people, confusing them both mentally and physically. And I ran with it, and I kind of, kind of developed almost a narrative in my mind in regards to the Undrunken Master, which I have a funny story because I partnered recently with Coors. So Coors Edge more specifically, which is this
is brand new.
Yes, which is their non-alcoholic beer. So the whole idea is I created an idea, an Undrunken Master. So the idea is you don't need alcohol to unleash your inner master. So I'm going to be filming with my, I don't know why I did this. That was a bit twirled. But basically the Undrunken Master, for those that don't know, the Drunken Master was a film, a classic with Jackie Chan, where, again, it's an untapped martial arts. So I think I kind of bought into the narrative a little bit too much, especially when I was expecting a bull in regards to Derek Brunson coming in, because he usually tries to knock you out in the first little bit. And I think I kind of put out there a little bit too much of my game plan when people talked, when I talked to all the media that I was doing beforehand, because I basically described Derek needing to cross that barrier because he just runs at people normally. When he didn't run at me, when I was expecting a bull and it just ended up being two matadors in different directions, I in many ways just didn't adjust. So I think I was a little flat-footed in that capacity, but again, you win or you learn, especially when you don't get knocked out. So I'm looking to get jump right back in there. Someone like Christoph Jocko, he called me out, or he basically reminded me that I called him out earlier. So he's on a win streak.
Who's this guy?
He's a tough kickboxer. He's from
Where's
I
he
can't
from?
remember. I think he's Polish to be exact, but he's been living in ATT for quite some time in Florida. A great gym. He is on a win streak.
He's starting beef with you. Well, you started beef
Not
with him
necessarily
before,
beef.
or what?
What's it called? I said I would love to fight him, and now I would still do. I think obviously I went on a 3-fight win streak. He's on a win streak right now himself. Getting back on the win streak. So he's a tough individual. He's gonna try and he's got knockouts on him in the UFC, and he's going to try and knock my block off. And I'm going to get back on that horse and do what I do. What I'm going to improve on, I think, I think there's opportunity in regards to just, taking advantage of adjusting. So I think I just didn't adjust, and also being more aggressive against the cage like I normally am, or I used to very much do, especially when I first won the Ultimate Fighter. I think there's an opportunity to mix both, but playing the outside game, but also bringing it in. So all the way out, all the way in, and a lot more dirty boxing like I did in the Trevor Smith fight. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Very cool. Anyone else have questions out there?
Let's say a run right in there. Brunson or Santos? I definitely Santos in some in many ways. I think he has a lot more limbs. He did a cartwheel against Poster Boy. Like he'll do a cartwheel to knock you out. So like someone to do that is a lunatic in the best kind of way. And he has like 4 head kick knockouts. He's undefeated since going to 205, and it's crazy that he's actually fought as low as 170. So it's very interesting to see when an athlete's able to go at their full potential and not diminishing themselves with something like a weight cut.
Okay, so let me. I don't think there's anything.
There's a question about cannabis.
All right, so cannabis. Okay, so here let's talk a bit. I mean, before we get into just straight out, cannabis. The business side of you, because like I said, in the ring, in the octagon, you're a badass fighter, but I always noticed, obviously in our conversations, because we don't really talk too much UFC. I mean, I get it. And I mean, for me, I don't really, okay, yeah, you lost, you won. I was more the mindset, but the business side of it. When you got into, obviously you win Ultimate Fighter, you were on a TV show, right? You were on
Amazing Race, Big Brother. But not actually like I was guest appearance on Big Brother.
Was it the one where the first? No, you're off the first episode? Was that Amazing Race?
The Amazing Race, yes. But the cool fact with that was a record for the biggest non-sports event TV debut in Canadian history. I think like 3.5 million people watched it. So even when I lose,
exactly.
Is that the best?
You parlay that into something.
The top.
So then how did you start connecting the dots with the business part? Because what was the first real, I guess, endorsement for you, or how did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do, or who was it?
I have a degree in advertising, so in many ways I'm advertising the brand that is myself. And I had an internship and an opportunity after my post-secondary education. Humber alumni represent. What's it called? Instead, I got my diploma and I ran right off to Thailand and had a couple of fights there. And I knew this is what I wanted to do. And from there, I was able to, bounce different jobs in between, do some of the modeling, acting, etc.
So you're a pretty good combination here, right? You got the looks, you've got the
might as well use them.
The advertising brains, the strength. I mean, that's the one thing too. In the bodybuilding world, because I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen different. It wasn't necessarily people who won the Olympia or even won. I mean, if you win, that's great. But there's a lot of other losers or second, third place guys. It's people who market themselves, people who can create some kind of interest in you. You know what I mean? Like even if I didn't know you, because people say, okay, the Greek connection. I think that's cool too, because you have Toronto, you've got and you're very active in the community, right? I mean, it's the stuff that you do some volunteer work with and all that.
Well, again, going back to the Spartan Spirit with Vula and what's it called, her whole organization and everything that they give back, and I'm planning to hopefully go to Greece in August and September.
Really?
Because work and pleasure.
Okay.
I'll probably set that up. Nothing set in the exact dates or whatnot, but
And she reminded me, it was so funny because Will reminded me that she met you at one of our parties.
yeah, the Harder Fit, which she worked in, was featured in again.
Exactly,
Determination. So this is the
there's a mom right there.
Well, she's the best.
Yes, you know what? I'll give her a lot of credit because this was coming from her. She pushed this idea, and we took a little bit of time to massage exactly what we were going to do, because it's not exactly okay. We're going to do this, and how do we incorporate you in that? And that was a lot of fun. And Vul is someone who I have a lot of respect for, who put this together and doing stuff with charities and all that. I mean, that's really. I mean, going back to your brands, these are things that you organically have been doing, and it's a part of it.
Obviously that's just a good cause, and I would support her and everything in regards to the foundation in any way, shape, or form. But going back to that in regards to Greece, I'm also filming a movie out there. What's it called? In September, where I play King Minos. It's a comedy. It's a comedy / fantasy. It's a romantic comedy with a fantasy twist to it.
Really?
Yeah. So I play King Minos, the first king of Greece, Crete. And basically, I can't say too much about it, but I'll be filming in the beautiful island of Crete.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to be a part of that, and the cast that's around it. A great script. Maria wrote a script.
Up to something, man.
Wrote an amazing script. Sorry, it's an amazing script that I was really excited to be a part of, and it's going to be on a beautiful island, and the location's amazing. And there's a couple other projects that I'm working outside of the cage as well. But
so let's talk about let's get the business stuff, because you got contracts. You had a PERT contract, right? Or
I was the first UFC fighter to get a endorsement in regards to a shampoo and conditioner, 2-in-1. So they're very thankful in regards to the partnership that I had with PERT Plus. Obviously, it's a well-known brand. It's been around for decades.
But what did you do? Here's the thing, because it didn't just fall in your lap. I know you have the hair, but you did stuff online, because there's a lot of guys out there and people, like I said, they could be fighters, all that, but to make money with this stuff and to do what you do, because it's organic to you. But what did you have
on Twitter? So Twitter is like one of my main basically platforms that I work just basically do me. So I've been very, very much involved in regards to live streaming and live tweeting any of the fights. So afterwards on any of the post wrap ups, what fighter said, how tasty is your tweet, like all of those kind of post fight kind of follow-ups, I'm involved in the conversation. So
you run
I kind of live tweet. I do like the online. I'm the unofficial official commentator in some regards on Twitter, right? So that has created me a part of the community in regards to both as a fan and as an MMA fighter. So that puts me in the space in that regards. Yeah. And one of the natural reactions I kind of created was the idea of the main event. The main event being MANE, trademark included. Basically putting that out there, creating the idea of being a fighter with long hair and kind of marketing it. Obviously, there's someone like Clay Guida who just won recently, but he was known for his hair, but I was known. I put it in a different way and kind of marketed it and was able to put it together in that capacity. And the partnership that I had with in regards to PERT obviously put it on the map. And I was able to, for instance, my campaign, they did a media buy of I think it was 6 million in total, 6 million ads in regards to both Canada and print in Canada and the US. So I've been in collectively over 7 million homes in some capacity in whatever distribution that they eventually put that out there. So I was able to be a part of that, and now I'm partnered with a different company called Wiseman. So that's in a more in many ways I've been as I grow as a mixed martial artist, I've also grown as a person that takes care of their hair and actually knows what needs to put in it, and that's what I've been able to find in someone like in the company like Wiseman. So very very eager to grow inside the cage as a fighter, and also as a person that who I have established myself in different directions in regards to different companies. As I mentioned, Coors Light more recently.
Coors Light. So who are the companies? Let's list all the companies now because we're talking about business. So you've got Wise. It's Wiseman.
Wiseman, what's it called? There's also On the Run Meals. On the Run Meals that I work with. Food, High Performance Nutrition, which is a supplement company.
You should have brought some bottles with you.
Yeah, no, well, I have it in my car. What's it called? After. Working on something. I can't talk about it, but it'll be so cool. We're doing a test pilot. We're gonna send it in. It's not official yet, but again, having Coors Light or Coors Edge more specifically is going to be really exciting. What was the other one? Well, one of the proudest moments was getting Rock'em Sock'em Robots with Mattel. So I was responsible for their relaunch in Canada for Christmas. So the activation was a campaign for Christmas, and that's
awesome. That's really cool. So do you have like an agent that connects you with people?
Well, I have an MMA agent, but a part of this has actually been organic in regards to putting myself out there. And different companies have reached out, and I basically pitch them a campaign, and the campaign is myself, and that's what I've been able to do.
Well, see, what I like about it as a marketing guy and a brand guy, like I said, is that you're connecting all the dots as far as like it's organic. Like you're not making this shit up just for the sake of being seen. Because a lot of people out there on social media, I'm not sure about other fighters and what they put out there, but it's like fake bullshit, right? Where you're creating business by things that you're engaging with people. So like that's how things come up. So let's talk about cannabis because this is what are you doing exactly with cannabis? Explain, because you told me this before, but I want you to say it to everyone. Because I remember it was months ago, you were giving me the heads up when we were working on the article, you're going to be the first, was it professional athlete to...
Well, so I'm working on what's called a therapeutic use exemption. So short term, it's called a TUE, right? So basically I have bilateral neuropathic pain, which is nerve damage of my upper extremities. And everything I do involves contact and rough contact with my upper extremities. I punch, I elbow, I take slams, everything in between. So there's a deficiency in regards to my sensors and nerve endings. And what that does is it creates, spiking pain, creates radiating heat. Yeah. Sometimes I won't even notice pain in regards to my elbow. Like sometimes it'll just be so numb in regards to the narrating heat. And I don't realize that I've elbowed or I hit my elbow so hard that it's completely bruised. And because of the way I was, texting or whatever like that for a little bit, I ended up having a swollen elbow that I didn't even notice. Again, because like your wires are just all over the place. So how I have been able to combat that and the sensations and the the competitive disadvantage that puts me at is cannabis as prescribed by my medical doctor. And
so how long ago was this?
I've been a medical patient since 2017. Okay. And from there I am able to not only manage the pain of my ailment and through my prescription, but also able to properly massage and stretch and relieve the actual outlining ailments through physio, through stretching itself, and I'm able to actually be more in tune with my overall body that way, right? So it's a mixture of both.
You were the first athlete? Is this
so my case, what I'm fighting in regards to the therapeutic use exemption is that right now cannabis is tested and it's classified as a prohibited substance. So that means it's on the same level as like an HGH or a steroid, which is ridiculous, right? And part of that is an outdated mindset, especially in the States and Japan, because of their outstanding governing bodies of essentially the Olympic testing pool, right? Yeah. So they have the negative look at it. And they don't classify it as medicine in any way, shape, or form. In the States, it's a class 1 drug, so it's looked at as heroin. Yeah. But ironically, you can have opioids for pharmaceutical grades, right? Mm-hmm. So again, this is medical equality is what I'm trying to fight for, not only myself, but all other athletes, because my case will set precedent not only for myself, but all of that same Olympic testing. So if all goes well, this will possibly put the first punch taking cannabis out of the prohibited list.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Now, is there any business ventures you're involved with that, or is there anything?
Well, one of the companies that, I've been working with, and they've been helping me as both a patient and athlete, is Solus Health Network. And Solus Health Network. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Solus Health Network has been helping in regards to the administrative aspect and also my patient care in cannabis, and also the actual, again, the just endless paperwork that's involved in putting together a therapeutic use exemption. It's above my understanding in many ways, in the capacity that I need help putting together the actual documents in regards to what my actual overall case, my medical case, comes to. And that's why, again, having a cannabis medical provider really, puts it all together. And even with that, it's been a 18-month process. And, again, without someone like Solus Health Network, it would have been even harder. And I couldn't imagine. And that's probably why no other athlete has never been in this position. Because again, they never say no, they only say you're denied. And after, X amount of times being denied now, I could see why, athletes would potentially, give out of frustration, or just, confusion because of what is needed. Because even not only have I my medical doctors and the medical practitioners at Solus Health Network, I've had a pain specialist. I've also had a neuropathic specialist, sports specific medical doctor as well. All accredited both in Canada and the US, and still denied because of the fact that they want me to exhaust all other medical options. So first line options. So they want me to do SSRIs. They want me to do antidepressants. They want me to do other type of painkillers. Like one of them would be Lyrica that I always explain. So with Lyrica, it's not only the side effects in regards to it doesn't really manage the pain the same way as cannabis, and it makes me feel drowsy, and it also more importantly gives me constipation and an upset stomach, and I'll be bloated like 10 extra pounds. And as someone that cuts about 15, 16 pounds to begin with, add another 10 pounds. Now that's another, again, competitive disadvantage I find myself in because of these alternatives that I'm being told to use, and some of them are addictive, and it's it's almost laughable. Where like USADA, again, I believe in safe sport. I believe in the idea of anti-doping, and I'm a clean athlete myself. And one of the proudest moments was when the UFC partnered with USADA, because I want that Olympic type testing. But cannabis, especially the way that I've done it, in the methodically going through different directions, and in the whole TUE process, and how I've been so transparent, and I've been putting all the specialists together, et cetera, where you can get Ritalin for no problem. You can get different type of all these other exemptions that are arguably much more detrimental, and especially the way that I'm asking for it. I'm only asking to use medical cannabis as prescribed by my doctor till weigh-ins, and then I'll go to sleep, wake up, and compete. Go to sleep, and medicate the next day.
Has this has been approved, or this is something that
it's still not approved? Again, I'm at the point where they want me to exhaust more options. So it means 9 weeks of an opioid. It means 9 weeks of a painkiller. It means 9 weeks of a SSRI. It means 9 weeks of an antidepressant, just to prove that this medicine doesn't work for me and the side effects are horrible. So they want me to literally try everything that doesn't work just to come back to what does work. It's an outdated mindset that I'm determined to fight.
That's good. No, it's kind of weird, because you think about now, this is like pioneering something, maybe 20 years from now, and this is like normal. People are not going to realize you were part of this is getting it going. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it is a lot of paperwork. I honestly, I just thinking about it exhausts me, thinking about how much shit you got to do to get things going. But I'm sure you're going to get
MRIs, X-rays, ultrasounds,
everything.
what's it called? Comparative ultrasounds, comparative MRIs.
But
Like,
it'll
again,
blow you away. You know, who knows? Like when this stuff happens, and then, like I said, 20 years, 15, 10 years from now, like, you know, it's even the legalization of cannabis is still, like I said, we talked about earlier. I mean, we're Canadian. We've been around it. If you've been to Vancouver, it's, you know, I get it, but it's still kind of like weird. You know what I mean? Like people, especially I have customers in the States. Like if you tell them, yeah, no, you can walk around here in Canada. Well, I'm sure now, even I'm sure at UFC events, there's probably people outside, you know, getting high and watching fights and all that. It's just becoming more and more culture, but it's just changed, right? It's evolving for where it was obviously years ago. So
it's removing a stigma, both on the recreational side and also the medical side. And, you know, I'm more of a proponent in regards to the medical aspect of it, obviously, because of the fact that it, in many ways, I look at it as a medicine to in my life. And what I suggest to everyone is to, you know, talk to maybe a medical professional, especially because, you know, it's always best to have a professional opinion. And I think, especially, what do you call it, when you're first starting to try it, I think it's always great to have a medical professional's opinion. And also people need to understand the difference between a right and a regulation. So all that changed in regards to legalization was a look at the criminal code, right? That's not a right. That's just a changing. So it just changed into non-enforcement in regards to a product now that can be sold. So I still believe that it should be a part of again, the healthcare system, because of the fact that it is a fundamental right to be able to medicate as prescribed by a doctor. And that's what, more pointedly, I'll be fighting for in regards to not only myself, but all other athletes moving forward.
Is there any next steps with that? What's the next?
It's pushing through. There's a couple of cool developments. Again, technical aspect will be exciting developments in regards to different legal components that are able to potentially, you know, kind of help put this in the right direction, because there are many people. It's not just the anti-doping agency. There's certain regulatory stuff that I have noticed, and I think that I'm with my legal representation, legal help, we can fine tune what I kind of think that will be an opportunity to not only get in many different directions in regards to a therapeutic use exemption and the ability to medicate as prescribed by my doctor.
Very cool. Now, do you think weed would be like a performance enhancing drug at all, a PED?
Well, the way I'm structuring my the way I'm structuring my TUE, my therapeutic use exemption is what's regards, I'm medicating until the day before. And then go to sleep and wake up. There will be no effects of cannabis in any way for you to call it inebriation, because there's no way that it will alter my way of thinking, and there's no way it'll actually help in regards to performance enhancing. The actual half-life and the actual duration of the medication time would only be a few hours, right? So I'll be going to sleep at 11 p.m., 12 a.m. The next day morning, there is no effects in regards to performance enhancing, so that it removes any type of aspect in regards to whether I'm, you know, what's it called? Not inebriated. What's the word I'm looking for? Intoxicated, or you know, any type of advancement. So there's none of those.
Okay, in UFC, like, what if someone drinks before?
They don't test you for that. It's
in the
based on
bodybuilding world, like from bodybuilding, guys are drinking vodka sometimes backstage. I mean, not that. Is it a performance enhancer? I mean, they do drugs probably, right? So, but I'm just saying, like, so the alcohol. What if someone was getting drunk? Like, I'm just saying.
But again, that falls under the commission, right? So that falls under the commission to see whether you're under the influence of something, right? So, but that's the whole point. Like, there shouldn't be a different standard, especially with the medical component. Because someone could have Vicodin in their system and it wouldn't be an issue. But if I have cannabis in my system, I can get suspended from 6 months to a year, and that's what I'm fighting.
Yes, no, I agree. I see what you're saying with that. You know, I just think of, like, almost like in a joking fashion, if someone actually if I was a UFC fighter, if someone to fight me and they're going to smoke a joint before they go into the octagon, for example, is that going to give them an advantage, or is that going to be a disadvantage? I'm just saying if it ever got to that point, but I mean, it's just such a, it's, I get what you're saying, where you're going with it. But do you think it would be an advantage to someone if they smoked a joint and then got it? Like, I don't think that would be.
No, and especially what I'm using it for, it's pain management. I'm not looking, again, it's not necessarily
getting a high or
the high component. And most of it is, again, I do it before, like when I will wake up in the morning, depending on what my body feels,
clear on what you're
what's it
doing
called, and then I'll go to basically training, and then afterwards, hours, then I'll medicate. And it'll be hours again, maybe even a nap before my next training session. Then I'll train, and then I'll medicate again. But there's different ways I look at people medicating themselves. People medicate themselves with caffeine, right? Absolutely. So I think there's just different looks at what people have used. And part of the reason why this established viewpoint in regards to cannabis being on the prohibited list is because if it's an outdated racist law in the capacity of putting cannabis as an illegal drug in the first place.
Yeah. There's a lot of things there we can get into with the cannabis stuff, and I like what you're doing with it because it's new. There's definitely a lot of work. You've been doing this for quite some time, right? I mean, this is not an easy thing, and obviously, I wish you the best of luck with that part of it. I want to get into a little bit of your training and nutrition. Now we can start off with nutrition, because now most of your meals now you have a company.
With On the Run meals.
On the Run meals. So they provide you basically every meal. Like what kind of?
For the most part. So they have everything from they have 3 basic plans: the custom or a
all your meals that you're getting right now are from them, or do you cook at home? Like what kind of?
A mixture of both. Obviously, in regards to closer to my fight. I just switch it in, the low carb options. And then even the last little bit, I also have, again, high performance nutrition. So, especially when I'm closer to fight camps, most of my, it's kind of like a smoothie or a, cause I kind of, keep almost as much as in regards to intermittent fasting. I kind of switch more to that, switch my fuel source from instead of carbohydrates to more healthy fats, not necessarily full ketosis until like the last week or so. Yeah. But, I use On the Run meals in regards to the 3 different the 3 different full meals that I'll have in a day, plus the plant protein that I'll have in the morning as my first real meal. And especially
I eat a lot of fish, chicken. Like what do you
fish,
have?
Chicken, yep. But they also have vegan options. They also have I mix the meat out. It's more protein is the more important part, and it's always kind of cool. It's good for your body to kind of leave out a little bit of meat and every once in a while, especially red meat too. So I kind of more focus on always having as much healthy fats as possible, whether it's avocados, olive oil, even cheese. I can, again, you earn it, you burn it, right?
Yeah.
So especially when I'm not in camp and I'm just maintaining, as long as I'm not eating crap, even though they do On the Run meal has the best like macaroons, and they have the best like different types of like. Sorry, I'm tapping my fingers. I'm drooling and tapping once I'm thinking of food. But because I'm allowed to have some cheats, right?
Hungry, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously use supplements.
Yep.
So what do you? So what kind of what are we talking here? So you obviously have meals prepared. Then you'll have like protein shakes.
Yep. So I'll have like a Pro Zero, which is high performance nutrition's, vegan option. California.
Oh, California.
So been with them for quite some time, and I really love their vision in regards to the plant focus and also being vegan, just because of both in regards to.
Can you find the product in Canada?
Yeah, you can get it in Canada. Yep, you can buy it online, and it'll show up at your door. So, what was I going to say?
Vegan. Sorry,
vegan. Pro Zero is really delicious, especially like some of their newest options. Because again, being a plant-based protein, sometimes it can be tricky, but they hit it right on the nail, and especially in some of their key key sellers in regards to birthday cake or what's it called? All the other options that they
I'll
have.
take a look at it. I've seen some of your social media, but I'll have to take a look at their line.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Yeah, maybe next time
yeah, I'll bring some. I'll bring it up.
We'd do a little taste test here, try it out, because I mean, I hear it all the time that it's the best tasting stuff, but especially with the vegan things too. I mean, it's changing, it's evolving. I see it.
100%.
Racks up, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you do there. So nutrition, now training, obviously. Forget about, let's not talk about MMA training, because that's a whole other ball game.
Lifting.
Do you lift? Do you go to? What do you do?
Yeah, most of my routine comes from my trainer Steve at Bang Fitness. So I've been with them for.
Where's that?
Bang Fitness is around Queen and Spadina.
So and Steve, sorry, who's Steve?
Jeff. Jeff is the owner, a great guy, and then also Steve has been my trainer. Now, my coach, my strength coach, for better part of 5 years. All right. So, he's helped me in regards to, just routine that I can both do with him. And obviously we hit more benchmark or oriented stuff when I'm with them. And then when I take it on the road in regards to, TriStar, and I just take the methods there, and it's about maintaining. And again, I don't have to.
So what kind of lifting are you doing? Are you doing like bench presses?
Yeah, bench press. We usually do agility to start, and then we'll add strength, power, and finish off with some type of conditioning at the end. And everything I do is also conditioning as well. That's why I put such a high output because I can. And I think it's been successful in that capacity for what I've been able to do as an athlete, and looking at it also not only as a fight, but as a sport and as an athlete, and what I've been successful in regards to just outpouring way more than my opponents.
Yeah. No, cool. I think there'll be a lot more that we could talk about with you, and we certainly, I mean, you're hopefully going to be local. We get you in here and do some more podcasts. We'll do lives and all that. And we'll wrap this up here shortly, but I kind of wanted to share one last, little story. And you're obviously fighting this day, but it was up in Ottawa when it was Nick McNaught, and we had said, hey, let's go up to your place. And
also been on the cover of Inside Fitness.
Yeah, that guy right there.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah, nicest guy. And so he bought a bunch of tickets. We have all these tickets, and we had these awesome seats where the walkout. And I can't believe you were in the ring first. Were you in the ring first that one, or you're after the guy? I can't remember. But one of the guys that we were with, the guy was walking down the walkout.
It's Kyle's friend. I'm blanking on his name.
Dave.
Yep.
Dave.
Boom.
So Dave, and I'm gonna have Dave and Kyle in here shortly too. But I'll never forget, Dave was just, having fun, and the guy was walking, and he had his hand out to give him like a high five. And just before the guy would give him a high five, he pulled it away.
Dave gave him the finger.
And but
the video, Dave's video is so dope.
It was and I got this on video. We got this on video.
Yeah.
But to me, and the guy got mad and gave him the finger, and he kind of went back at him. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. This guy is already rattled before he even got in the octagon. Like, who falls for this guy? But it was such a funny
mad.
Game. No, he was
Dave
so mad. So when you won, Dave, and I was like, Dave should get like a little bit of credit on that one. I think.
I know.
Like 1% on that one.
If it was hockey, he would get the assist.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got the assist.
But we got to get that video.
Thank you for the assist.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you coming in and spending some time. We're going to go back on Instagram Live for a little bit. There's probably some questions and all that. And Elias, thank you so much for coming in, and wish you all the best moving forward. And we'll do some more stuff.
Thanks, Darren, man. Means the world.